We good to go? All right. Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock on May 3rd, 2023. We have, my name is Stephanie Slish. I'm the chair of the planning board. I have Jimmy Tarr to my right as our alternate chair. I have John Jeffress to my left, Lee Bell at the end. I have administrative assistant Gerard Bueno here as well. And then virtually we have Mike Poshik. Mike, can you state that you're here virtually?
Hello.
Hey, Mike, good to hear you. And we also have our assistant town planner, Janelle Franklin, here joining us virtually as well. All right, the first item on the agenda is, as always, is public forum. This is generally time for folks to come and bring something forward to the planning board that's not on the agenda. This would also be a good time for folks, if they're here, to speak about anything about the proposed hotel at 16 West Street, because we closed the public comment section at our previous meeting. That this is the time for the public to come and speak if they'd like to raise a comment to the board at this part of the agenda, as opposed to the next part. If that makes sense. Anyone here like to speak to that? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, just for the microphone piece. Thanks, Peter. And state your name and.
Peter Langlis, Prospect Street and West Street business-wise. So I know that the public comment part of this has gone by and you're in the deliberation phase. And if I may speak for some of the neighbors down there on Route 5, and I think I can, there's still concerns about the extended stay situation and everything from, the amount of police presence that's required at the place right next door, all the way up to Kenwood Estates. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it's probably the number one call that the police department answers in this town, because we see them quite often flying by and heading in that direction. And so I had two quick questions. Number one, is there going to be any kind of stipulations that is going to protect us from the extended stay part of this thing that sort of is making people a little bit nervous? Is it legal for the planning board to have that kind of a stipulation? Is that on the table? Because I've sort of, I've been in business for a long time, and I've been to the banks a few times, and the one thing they always say to you is, what if? What if the people don't respond to your business plan of opening a restaurant? What if people don't like your food and you're not as busy as you hoped? So what if the hotel is not a draw? Here's a guy that's going to put up a lot of dough. Respectfully, I told you at the meeting that I made before that I think, other than the storage units, I think the hotel's a fine idea. If on the surface, if that's what it shakes out to be. But I still have that what if question. And, does the other situation like Section 8 or extended stay or any of that, is that going to come into play 5 years from now if they don't have the occupancy? Because I don't know. I certainly haven't done any homework on it, and I'm sure that the investor who's building the place has, but is there that kind of demand for that kind of a unit in that section, seeing as we're not really a tourist, a tourist attraction on Route 5 in Hatfield? So that's my loaded first question. And then my second question, I think, which Lee had responded to, and I wasn't able to get to one of the other meetings, and that was, if the thing moves forward, is there any indication if the street is going to have to be shut down? You remember that question when I was here a couple meetings ago? Was there any clarity on that, or was anybody ever able to ask anybody on that subject matter?
I'm ashamed to say I didn't.
You're talking about doing construction or the
well, do they have to close off?
Work?
Yeah, do they have to close off the street to dig a trench to bring the sewer in, bring the water in? Is the street going to be shut down for a day, a week, 2 weeks, that sort of thing? Because obviously directly affecting our situation, on Route 5 is sort of where I was pointing the question the last time, when I made the meeting. I think it was probably 2 meetings ago. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm not sure if it's a open discussion or if you guys take those comments and discuss it amongst yourselves. But I will tell you there's a pretty ongoing concern about the what if. What if they don't have the occupancy? What if the guy's holding $1 million building, God forbid, and and doesn't have the occupancy. So
Yeah, and it's just, thank you, Peter. It's
Yeah.
usually we take those comments in and we can address them in the continued public hearing piece, but not in this public forum part.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that would like to, yep, go ahead.
Robert Raymond, managing partner of the 10 West Plaza to the south of this project. And first of all, I'd like to thank the members of the planning board for your noble cause and all the work you guys do. I've been before planning boards in many different communities and states, so I'm aware of all the work that you folks do. But I'd like to expound on what Peter just said as far as what if it doesn't seem to work as an extended stay retail hospitality business. And I've been before planning boards where I've had orders of condition imposed upon me, which you have every right to do when I've been granted variances or permits. And I respectfully ask that this board place an order of condition on this permit that if this does not pan out as an extended stay retail hospitality, and that
Non-extended stay.
right, not where I'm going is, should this property developer start to take in people who are subsidized housing, which is not a retail extended stay, and is receiving funds from federal or state funding departments for people who are displaced, not traveling, I respectfully request that that license either be suspended or revoked until he comes back into compliance. So I'm asking the board to put an order of condition on that permit. So if he does not perform as he's presenting, then he comes back for review on the permit for hospitality. Okay.
Mhm.
And secondly, I do want to say that I'm curious to know why there is that mix of self-storage on this site, because I've been in the self-storage industry. I've developed 90,000 plus square feet. And the industry doesn't even begin, or developers don't begin to even think about building those out until they've hit 30,000 square feet. So why only 2 buildings? To me, it's dubious at best as to why they're there and who they're going to service. So, but thank you for your time, and I appreciate it if you would seriously consider that request.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else like to speak at public forum? This is for something not on the agenda, or to speak towards, that there won't be a public comment section for the 16 West Street parcel. If there's no one else here virtually or in person, we will close public forum and move on to continue the public hearing for the proposed hotel at 16 West Street. It was back in February when this was initially presented to us, and we requested that there be come back with updates to lighting and added vegetation and vegetative screening. And so we're here to hear more about that, and then probably to address some of the public's concerns that we've heard, not just here tonight, but in between those meetings as well, related to the extended stay stuff. So would you like to present?
Sure. Hi, my name is Doug Searle. I'm with Berkshire Design Group, and we're here on behalf of Kenny Patel, who's the current applicant for this. My colleague Jeff Squire is not able to make it tonight, but he was presenting the first time. So pardon if there's a couple things that happened at the first meeting that that he did not share, but he tried to share everything he could. What I have here, I just wanted to walk through some of the additions that we added based on the comments from previous time. I'll just briefly walk through. A sign was added on front with uplighting, and then 2 shoebox downlights were pole lights were added to the parking lot for security and evening lighting. These are dark sky compliant fixtures. And then around the building, several lights were added to here. So here's an example of that shoebox fixtures and LED light. And then there are wall sconces placed around the proposed hotel building near the entrances for security purposes that are also downlights, dark sky compliant. So that is something that we added to this. And then regarding some vegetation requests, just the areas that were highlighted here in green, we put in vegetated buffers along the north and south side of the proposed storage units to provide a buffer, and then also enhanced vegetation around the entrance to be more fitting in with the standards of places like Arcade Miles and other businesses along the street. And then there was been some changes in the
Oh, the design a little, yeah, we requested to, maybe make it a little
exactly. It's
more appealing.
and I'm not an architect. I can only speak to a limited degree about this. A little bit of the facade had shifted, but not significantly. I'd say the largest significance it was that an asphalt pitched roof was proposed versus a flat roof, so that it fits a little bit more into the regional vernacular. Sort of the largest change that I'm aware of for the for within the architecture for this. It's still proposed with 35 rooms. There's still 38 parking spaces for the site. And all the stormwater there's currently nothing on site that is an existing piece of infrastructure, no catch basin or anything on site. So there's no new infrastructure that's getting added to direct into any kind of drainage piping. All of the surface flow is to be directed to surrounding rain gardens. The drainage plan highlights to the north and south and to the east of the site. That's the initial gist of that. Were there any initial questions on that?
No, yeah, I appreciate the efforts to change the building to make it look a little more in line with Hatfield's character. I appreciate that. I think the vegetative screening and the lighting, it
What
makes
we asked for.
It's what we asked for. Yep.
And
And the stormwater piece.
Right.
So I think that's good on our end. I do have, I would like to bring up the question, I think, that the public has raised, because I think it's, even though it was on the record back in January, that this wouldn't be an extended stay, I think there's a question, bringing it up and talking about plans and
I think if we might just ask Mr. Patel, point blank.
Right.
again.
Mr. Patel, can we ask you point blank whether you intend to use this as just a short term?
This is just kind of more kind of boutique hotel.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I heard the comment, but I don't want to anything say against that comment. Comment is comment. But we build a lot of new hotels. We built Hampton Inn in Greenfield. We built Courtyard in West Springfield. We develop Holyoke by the mall,
Mhm.
that Fairfield Inn and McDonald and all those,
Mhm.
all that 8-acre land. And we build a lot of other hotels in some other area in West Haven, Smithfield, Rhode Island, everywhere. This is the one we like to build as a boutique hotel.
Mhm.
People say it's not tourist. I'm in 30, 40 year in this town, own the Quality Inn, and we have maximum tourism in this town, in this whole Western Massachusetts. So basically, it's on highway too. So we're gonna cover most of the tourism people and parents and local area and commercial business.
Yeah, with the 5 College area, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, the looking at that floor plans of it, it looks like there's like one apartment, you would say, but it looks like it's near the front desk and
No, that's our manager apartment.
Manager
Owner.
apartment.
We're gonna bring the owner with the apartment.
Yep.
so
And
they
then the
can
rest
stay.
is,
Because you cannot afford for 34 room, like
Yep.
Hampton in 24-hour staff and all those things.
yep.
But we
just-
will run as a clean business, all our hotels.
What would you think if it would be, onerous to your business if we put 30-day stays as part of this permit?
Who?
If we put
Conditions.
A
Condition of no
condition
more than-
on this approval.
On my other hotel, we build bigger hotel. We don't have that stipulation 30
Yeah.
days. Because some customer come for commercial, they need 90 days, they need 6 months.
60 days.
Or no,
It's
they sometimes stay 6 months too.
Yeah.
So we cannot put the stipulation. on
Yeah, and I
that
know
one.
people, like I was telling Lee, there's,
We try to
professionals.
keep, we don't want to bring young people in our new hotel.
I don't think, yeah, that's the word I would use, but I understand.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
we would like to keep, if somebody need, some company need 1 year, 3 room, 5 room, what I'm gonna say no,
Okay.
and I cannot lose that business.
Right, and
We
I'm,
need those business.
and I'm aware of like,
Otherwise, I'm gonna go bankrupt, if I don't rent those.
and I'm aware of,
to the
college
company.
professors who, will stay for the semester.
Right.
Yeah.
Or-
No,
People
I
have
have-
sabbatical.
At the quality in Northampton, I have three parents who stayed 3 years
Mhm,
because their daughter was in Smith College
mhm,
and they were even from Middle East or wherever.
mhm,
But they want to stay long term,
mhm.
so I cannot put that stipulation.
Is it private funded or state, their stay?
Private.
Yeah, so what about a stipulation that restricts federally or state funded?
Can we allow?
Yeah,
can
but
we do
some-
that?
sometimes the state
Question.
need some rooms for
Mhm,
some good people.
mhm. Yeah, because the state is a right to
It's
shelter
like-
state, so there's some questions
Some
there.
town people have something flood in a town, in
So could
a
we,
house, they will stay for 1 year.
could we describe it as Section 8?
I don't think we can do that.
Okay.
So this is my comment.
None of
Yeah.
these.
We will run as a
Ju-
clean
rooms-
business.
Yeah, we have Janelle, our assistant planner. Yeah, Janelle, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, none of these rooms, besides the clerk's room, which is an apartment, it doesn't
Manager,
have any
the
sort of
owner's
kitchenettes or
apartment.
anything, right?
Confirming that there's no kitchenettes in any of the rooms, correct? Besides the apartment.
We will do 3 room with a kitchenette. Because sometimes people ask for
Yeah.
long-term people.
I just was wondering that because if people are concerned about using supplemental funds for longer stays, there's usually pretty strict restrictions on those, and they would require kitchen facilities. So
Yeah, they
that's
do.
why I wanted to know.
So you're saying from people who are, if they're sent by the state, you're saying state-funded folks, that they need kitchenettes at least, and there's only 3 rooms that have a kitchenette in this hotel.
3 or how many?
Ye-
Can you see? Please, sorry.
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't answer right now, actually.
Yeah.
I don't remember which ones have.
Okay.
uh,
We didn't put the full drawing yet, so. No, that is just the regular drawing.
Because that's the other thing, is we can restrict the number of ones with kitchenettes, for example.
I'm not sure that we can do that.
Isn't it fair to say that the
I think so,
Hatfield
6
does
room.
not have any
This
kitchens?
bigger room
Right.
and this
That's
bigger room.
exactly it.
Mhm.
That's exactly it.
Bigger room.
We don't have any
Two,
policing power.
four, I think so.
It was 4 to 5, the last guy said last meeting, including the clerk.
Feel if there's rooms that don't have kitchenettes, I couldn't imagine 3 months to a year, somebody could
So
possibly live in.
with that,
Or night they could.
But my business, if I don't put the kitchenette, I cannot survive. I cannot build this hotel in this town. I can take it back and go somewhere else.
Mhm. For sure. I
No?
understand, I agree with the concerns that are brought up, and I'm just curious on how and way that we would condition it in a way that's fair to a business owner, but then also addresses the concerns, and then is also legal.
You cannot build a business with the other people who don't in this business, I'm
Right,
in
but
this business 30, 40 years.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking about towns that maybe, people that condition Airbnbs and things, how do they condition, they're able to add conditions to those things. And
There's no conditions in Hatfield.
Right, but
I
we
have
can
an
add
A- I ha-
conditions to it.
I understand. I have an Airbnb. There are no conditions on how long your guests can stay.
Right, and other communities have those conditions.
Well, right.
Right. But is it something that we could put on a permit is a question I have from a legal side.
Private residence in that sense, it's different.
So from a legal standpoint, I have questions on that, and I don't feel.
Mhm.
Without an attorney's opinion, we're not.
Yeah,
gonna
how
get
to-
the
can't
correct
answer tonight.
That's
You
all.
might want
Can't
to look
answer
into
tonight.
Amherst regulations for the number of non-related people residing under the same roof.
Amherst has nothing to do with Hatfield,
Okay.
politics-wise especially.
Yeah, so
I think that we need to get an opinion from our lawyer on what restrictions we could possibly put on that are both legal and fair to all
And
parties
addresses
involved.
the neighbors' concerns, yeah.
And address the neighbors. We've had other neighbors that have come and are supportive of this project. So, I mean, it's not just people that have come that are not supporting this project. And
Let there be no mistake on my opinion either. Like I said at the meeting, like I'm 90% in favor.
Mhm.
But we have this nagging question.
You've already promised breakfast when we get this project going.
And I'll hold true to that. But we have this neighboring situation that's not real pretty. And so
They're
There's a
looking
lot of good
the situation you're talking about, the,
let's
next
not have
door
a
to
back
where
and
he
forth.
wants to
What?
build, you know, the Hatfield Inn. And
uh-huh.
I think it's fair to say that there are no kitchens there either. So,
There's
you
no
know,
carpet.
it's nagging, you know, it's just, we want some assurances that it's gonna upkeep the integrity of the neighborhood and hopefully just keep it, you know, just keep the neighborhood integrity moving north and having it be,
Yep,
you know, top notch, you know, all
Yeah.
the way around. And
A good fit for Hatfield.
totally. I understand. Yeah, I understand. And yeah, how do we, does anyone, Mike, do you have opinion over there on virtually? I just want to make sure you have a chance to.
Yeah, it seems like our condition should be the planning board's conditions and that the owner should be able to work around those conditions. You know, it's not our position to solve the investor or the owner's problems. I think we should put the conditions on that we feel are correct for the neighborhood and the impact on the community.
Do you have a thought on what that might be, Mike?
Excuse me?
Do you have a thought on what that might be?
No. No, I missed the other meeting, so I'm listening now, but I'll come up with something.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that whatever we as a planning board decide is going to have to be bounced off our lawyer.
Yep.
To make sure that we're legal in every direction, both for you and for you.
Well, I know that I spoke to Kyle about this. I knew that.
No, I'm not talking Kyle. I'm talking the attorney.
Just hear me out. I spoke to Kyle, and he would be the person who would enforce any contingency on this. And yeah, and my initial reaction would be to put, say, a 60-day limitation. He says that would be a hardship to his business, and again, the legality I'm not sure on. So I guess we're in a strange spot in my mind.
Anything like that, Lee, don't you think it would just be renewable? I
Right.
mean,
We're
someone stays for 60 and then renews
This
for
is-
60 as long as it's.
But I mean,
legitimate.
where's the around? I mean, you
Right.
know, where's the
Whatever
solution?
we think and whatever you think is inconsequential till we hear from what
Yeah.
the lawyer says is the law.
Yeah,
So,
we
and-
want to address your concern and we want to
It's
figure out how we
they're
can
legitimate
legally do it.
concerns.
Right.
and we legitimately like want to see this project and want to make sure it works for the business.
And he's
owners as
been
well.
he's been very patient with us. This
Right.
has been a long process.
If it's
So
done like a normal hotel too, like people are in and out and catering to tourism, it could be good for my business, it could be good for their business, it could be good for
It'll be great
everybody
for
else.
Hatfield.
What's your
Yeah.
But it could
business?
be- I'm sorry, my name is Ryan Bouvier, I own the go-kart track in Hatfield.
And yeah, we're not.
And so I just, it could be really good, so like he said, 90%, obviously in favor, you run it the way you say it, but at the same time, if it goes a different way,
I
it could be significantly detrimental to us.
Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry, we're not supposed to be entertaining comments from the public right now. So I just want to, we get your sentiments and we are trying to figure this out too. And also, in February too, you even said yourself, this is not going to be an extended stay thing. So so if there's a way that we could condition it in a way that maybe wouldn't put a day number, you know, we'll see, have to see what our lawyer says. Unfortunately, this is something that came up within the last week of, of more concern. Do we have a motion for anything then?
I make a motion, we send this information to our lawyer and get a legal opinion on what we can do.
And then we would have to, any second,
Second.
any just
Yeah, I'll
for,
second it.
for discussion, we would then need to vote to continue the hearing again. Would we be in close to 90 days, Gerard?
Yeah, but we can always help. We can always have them sign something. We would be at threat of being within 90 days, but we can always kick that.
Mr. Patel, would you be willing to go past the 90 days so we can examine this?
What is it?
We're running up onto a 90-day
Deadline, yeah.
deadline where we need to make a decision on this. And if you're willing to work with us, we can extend this so we can try to figure this out. We're trying to work this out so we can find a working solution for everyone. What are your thoughts on that? You would have to sign on an extension.
Because the thing that I'm coming is third time now here, you know what I mean? Is already, I bought the building it almost 1.25 years. I'm paying the interest. Now, even if you pass it today, whatever way is condition, still I have to go to the architect engineer, get the whole design, take 3-4 months. So I want to start this by July and August. So I don't know how I can start the building. Financially, each month I have to pay the interest.
I have
We have a motion and a second too. that we
Yeah,
need
that's
to
true.
act on.
I have with more discussion. The other thing we could do too is I'm not opposed because this is on our end, making this work within the 90 days and having another meeting in the interim where we just address
Special
this.
meeting.
A special
Yeah,
meeting
I'll
where
be
we
okay with
address
Yeah,
this.
that's fine too. We could do that.
Verify the actual date too, so if the June meeting is within that 90 days, we wouldn't have to have that special meeting.
I
But
think
I
we
just
could
know where it's like cutting it close. I just know.
get the information from our lawyer within a week.
Yeah, we would have probably the information back within a week.
So can I ask, so you would put a series of conditions to the lawyer and ask him what's
We would
legal
ask
and
him
what's
what's
not?
legal for us to do.
And he would provide you with a series of conditions?
He would provide us
Or are
with
you
what's,
gonna-
he's going to provide us with what's legal for us to do as far as restrictions, both on him and on what you guys are asking for.
Okay,
So he's going to tell us what we can legally do, what we legally have to do. Can
then-
and have to are two different
And then
things.
we would have to come back to another meeting to vote on this.
Right.
Which we would, again, there's a 90-day, we have within our right, we can take up to 90 days. And in the interest of understanding that we have pushed this, if the 90 days is earlier than before our next meeting, I would say we could have a special meeting just to address that and with that condition. Or if the 90 days isn't till June 5th or whatever our next meeting is, we can just have that at our next June meeting. Is that?
yeah.
So yeah, that was the discussion
I agree.
with the motion.
It looks like our
seconded.
next meeting is June 7th, though.
Yeah, so Gerard we'll discuss it at our June 7th meeting if it's in the 90 days. And if it's not, then we'll have a special meeting ahead of that to
Okay.
make sure that we stay within we're in good faith trying to do this
It's
at the right
close.
time.
Yeah.
It
that's
is
fine.
close.
Okay,
Yeah, please.
all
I
right.
do understand this project.
Yeah.
You know?
We will get it
All right,
done as
so-
quick.
You do understand like this discussion is not going to necessarily feed into architectural changes.
Yes,
to
so
the
everything
building,
else is,
right?
we
More
agree.
legal language on the permit.
Yeah. This is,
think you-
we're good with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've done a good, people have done a really good job in designing what you want to do.
All right, so we have,
Try to run the property nicely than other people. I know you're quite son, but you cannot, I don't know, you cannot listen to the public.
You
know
hear,
what-
you hear what they're saying.
what-
You hear what
I
their
know what
concerns
they say.
are and you
But
get their
people are complaining for complaint, you know what I mean? If I don't like you or I don't like this building, I can say, why this thing, you know?
Well, it's more
You
about,
can complain, you know?
yeah, it's more about the
Thank you.
police at the neighbors.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Patel.
you.
Thanks.
so we have a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mike?
Aye.
All right, and now can we have a motion to continue the hearing as well?
I make a motion, we continue the hearing on
Either
e-
till June 7th.
either till June 7th or till a special meeting
Second.
to meet our 90 days.
Great. John, you
Second
second?
that.
So
All in favor? Or any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
All right.
Yes.
Stephanie, can you check if the storage units need parking spots? Because according to the numbers, if the hotel's fully saturated and full, there's 2 extra spots, which is the clerk
30,
and,
35
yeah,
minutes,
there's
30.
three extra
all right,
spots.
so a clerk or janitor,
All right.
so do storage units need proper clearance for a car to back in?
They usually, it's pretty temporary for the amount of time that people are spending at the storage unit, and so.
I'm not talking about time, just actual space.
Yeah, I mean, so far, we think that based on the, what we think the needs are gonna be, that, somebody could pull in front of the storage unit, there's enough space for that, park temporarily can be done with their car.
Okay.
But yeah,
moving
we
on.
All right.
think there's enough space for it.
Yeah. Sorry. And thank you. We will move along to the next piece of the agenda. Thank you.
Penske.
We have a time for 6:20. It's the 52 North Street A&R Karpinski 2009 Irrevocable Trust. Yes, please come up to the microphone and introduce yourself. Either whoever's here to speak on.
North, hold on. No, Mr. Karpinski, please. Mr. Karpinski's up.
Oh. Thank you. Yes, hi, thank you. Please introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Michael Karpinski. I live in Corvallis, Oregon. I'm here on behalf of my mother, who lives in the house at 52 North and
And-
has for 65 years.
And this is a simple approval not required, which means, that you come before the planning board when you're adjusting your boundary lines and things like that, and we just sign off on it. So basically what you're doing, it looks like there's an empty lot next to you, but it doesn't meet the frontage requirements necessary for building a home under our current
Correct.
zoning bylaws.
Correct.
So what you'd like to do is combine it with the house to create a larger lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. With that, do you have anyone have any questions for the applicant? Otherwise, we can make a motion to approve the A&R, and we'll sign it after the meeting and have it available to you tomorrow in Gerard's office.
Okay.
Or you can hang around, but there's quite a few more things on the agenda.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the A&R as presented.
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mike?
Aye. Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, next on the agenda, we have 12 to 18 Elm Street. So I just so the public's aware of this, this is the first part of the agenda is an A&R approval not required. They're asking to merge 12 and 18 Elm Street into one lot. This isn't the public hearing yet. This is just the A&R portion. Yep. So would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Alejandro Levins.
All right,
Excuse me?
Alejandro Levins.
great. And you are here, I just kind of explained what you want to do, but can you explain for the public what you plan to do with this A&R?
We're subdividing the front of 18 Elm out from the back of 18 Elm. 18 will be merged with 12, which is where the storage facility is.
So you're separating the house from the back part of
That's
the
right.
lot.
What would the back part remain as an address?
The back part would join 12.
Join 12.
Yeah, so
And
the
the
shape
house
of
would-
12 would change.
So the shape of 12 would change.
That's right.
And 18 would be the house.
18 would be the house. It would
Yes.
remain the house.
And just the house?
There's a minimum lot size, so
Right.
So the land the barn is on will merge.
that's right.
Gotcha.
And again, this is something that we would allow. Anyone can do that as long as they meet our requirements for lot size and frontage requirements. And so with that, any discussion with the applicant? Any questions from anyone?
Nope.
All right, can I have a motion?
Hello.
This is not related to the special permit application. This is only to, and we generally.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
My name is Peter Pollard. I'm at 26 Elm.
Mhm.
I just had a question. I didn't understand whether he said the barn was included in 12 or 18.
The barn was a part of the parcel that'll be connected with 12, correct?
It's part of 18 now, and it will move.
The whole barn.
The barn will, that land the barn is on will now be addressed as well. Will be part of the other parts.
Including the older building, the historic building.
The house will remain
Right, but the barn.
The big barn behind the
big
house,
barn,
yeah.
The whole thing, okay.
and back, yep.
Its address will change if it got mail delivered.
All right. Any discussion from board members? If not, or Janelle, you're also, if there's any questions. All right, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the A&R.
Second.
Any discussion?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Ceremoniously. And we will sign that and have that available by tomorrow morning in our office with the A&R. Now we're moving to the special permit public hearing on the special permit for 12 to 18 Street, Elm Street. Before we open this hearing, I do want to, hold on, let me pull up. I do want to ask, so before we open this, I understand that you're waiting to hear back from, or you have some direction from the Conservation Commission related to some of the wetland buffer that's there. And I think, I don't want to speak for the board on this, for anyone else on this, but I don't feel like we would feel comfortable, voting on anything until you got the permit from, or I don't know if it's permit's the right word, from the conservation,
Yeah,
the green
approval,
light approval from the Conservation Commission and Mass DEP.
It sounded like the conservation thing was going to get drawn out a little bit. They were getting a third party. I went to the meeting just so I have a little bit of knowledge about it. I'm just a little uncomfortable uptaking this special permit and looking at it when we're kind of putting the cart before the horse here. I mean, you don't have, without the land approved for usage, it's
And
kind of.
and is there and like you might present on this and then you turn out when the peer review comes back that you might have to change the design. So there's a couple options. We can either kind of punt this until we come back and hear back from conservation, but that would include you having to pay to post for the hearing again. Or we can present what you have and vote to continue the hearing. Probably know it will go past the 90-day mark that we have required to make a determination within 90 days of having a public hearing and opening a public hearing. So that would be the second option would be to open the hearing, have the conversation, but then vote to continue it probably past the 90 days. And we would both have a written agreement that we're okay with going past the 90 days. If it does take that long to go past the 90 days to clear up Conservation Commission. So it's up to you on that.
I mean, if you're willing to sign an agreement to extend that if need
Sure.
be.
That would probably be the least costly option, but also might be more work on your end, maybe your end to redesign it or come back to us with more.
If you guys could, if you're not comfortable hearing the presentation tonight and you want to wait till there's a full, review and response from the Conservation Commission, then we can just ask to continue the hearing at this
It just
time.
might be wasted time.
Right,
Depending
so
on what
that-
they do, right? So we can't speak to it until they rule.
We could just return when we're able to give the full presentation and conservation.
The other thing too is you could hear, there are people here from the public that,
Sure.
they saw this posted hearing and are here. It might be to your benefit also to hear from the public if we decide to open it tonight. So I think that's the decision. I think that would be.
Seems.
Didn't I read?
Yeah, it totally seems reasonable.
Okay.
Didn't I read in that report that the Conservation Commission wants to bring in an expert,
A third party,
a
yes.
third-party expert?
And so that might take time past the 90 days is what we're saying. So the two options, one, open this and start this process and just vote to probably go knowing that we might have to go past the 90 days. Is that, I'm fine with hearing them. We might just have to hear them
Okay.
again.
I'm fine with doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Seems there's people here to speak, so.
You got Berkshire.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make, be transparent. This is what we're thinking about and wanted to give you that option.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So we're opening the public sorry, I have to read this. So opening the public hearing for 12 to 18 Elm Street, Benson Mini Storage LLC. The planning board will conduct a public hearing on May 3rd, 2023 in Town Hall at 6:30 p.m. Applicant Benson Mini Storage LLC is seeking a special permit with site plan approval from the board pursuant to Section 5.0, subsection 5.15 of the town zoning bylaws to construct new self-storage units at 12 and 18 Elm Street. The complete application and site plan is available for inspection during regular business hours at the office of the town clerk, Memorial Town Hall, 59 Main Street. With that, what happens with the hearing, we will hear the full scope of the plans from the applicant, and then there will be an opportunity for proponents of the plan to speak, and then opponents of the plan to come forward and speak. And unfortunately, there's no abstention. You either have to come up and talk during the proponent part or the opponent part. So I just want to let folks who are here in the audience aware of that. And with that, we will open the presentation.
Okay, great. Hi. Hello again, Doug Searle, Berkshire Design Group, and for this project, we are working with Alejandro Levin on helping to develop and permit the redevelopment of this site to add some additional storage units. May I ask the audience questions? Or no? Just if I get a show, are you all here for this project? Great. Okay, then.
Yeah, we have.
Sorry, I can.
Question is fine.
They may. Do you guys have copies of this?
Yes. You can
Okay,
show
so I just didn't want to exclude you and just present to the board, even though technically I'm only supposed to present to the board, but out of respect because you guys showed up tonight. The project pertains to 12 and 18 Elm Street. As the owner was just discussing that he has applied for an A&R, which was just approved, to separate out the house that's at 18 Elm Street, and the rear portion, the northern portion of that property will be joined in with 12 Elm Street. Right now, the site between the two properties has mixed residential and industrial uses. There are 2 single-family homes. There's a series of 8 storage units. There's an old wood frame barn, a smaller barn, and then a series of other uses at the northern end of the site, some of which at one point in time was permitted through a special permit. There may also be activities that by previous owners that were not permitted. I'm only vaguely familiar with previous special permit for like wood chip storage and log storage. But there's an array of uses and existing sort of materials, concrete, extra debris piles. There were former logs on site. There's a large area of wood chips and other debris, all of which is intended to be cleaned up. The goal of the project is to remove some of the buildings on site. And the residences in the front would stay, as well as the office that would be part of the storage units. The storage units themselves would stay, but a series of some of the smaller buildings would be removed, and the barn needs to be removed. It's my understanding that Alejandro had spent time looking for folks that could do barn reclamation for the materials inside, but has had a difficult time finding somebody that found the current materials inside, like that there was enough that was salvageable, is my understanding with that. So
There wasn't valuable enough.
yeah. So for those that know the history of that barn, which I'm just learning, I can appreciate that very much. But I understand that effort was taking place. But so given the age of that barn and that there is not a lot of valuable reuse in those materials, that barn is slated to be taken down. The existing driveway at 18 Elm is proposed within that A&R for the new 12 Elm Street property to create an easement for the use of that driveway to be able to access a portion of that site. And then the main current entrance that is used for accessing the storage facilities would still be used for commercial purposes. So the proposed facility is looking to do a total of 6 storage units done in a phased approach. The current first phase would include the site work of demolition and then the cleanup of the northern end of the site, which is pretty extensive. And then the installation of a gravel drive. The plans do say asphalt, but the owner has decided to install gravel lanes throughout. And then 4 buildings in the first phase, and 2 pads would be put down for the other 2 remaining buildings, and then they would be done at a second phase soon thereafter. The site is designed so that there would be stormwater management installed. Should be on this next sheet here. So a series of catch basins and plumbing that would direct the water from this additional development to a stormwater basin on site. The stormwater basin is a little bit oversized in order to catch up to a 100-year storm. So fairly extensive development of that facility. It is then there is an overflow, although at 100-year storm is like 7.4 inches of rain. So it's a pretty everything will be soaked in underwater at that if that happens. But this is designed to literally hold that amount of water from this existing new site. Right now, there is nothing on the site in terms of stormwater retention or plumbing. Yes.
Okay, the one building there that you're adding on the end of 12.
This one.
Up there.
Yep.
In the back there.
Yep.
My mom owns the property that's being flooded out constantly.
This isn't
from
the
all the
time for
water
public
runoff
comment.
that's there
I'm sorry.
That's a fair point. Can we hold that for a moment?
Yeah, this isn't time for the public. This is the presentation part. Your public has opportunity to speak in the next part of this hearing process.
So there is a certain amount of regrading in the back here that is grading to slope offsite. It currently already does that, and so we're blending in with those existing grades that we have to do. But the vast majority of the site, the edge of the river is a little bit higher than the rest of the site. And yes, there's a small portion. It does look like that it does drain to the north. Majority of the water is draining back through the site and was the new portion of the new development of the site is graded in such so that it's redirecting it not towards Elm Street, but towards the stormwater basin. And that entire northern edge outside of the drive lanes around the storage units is proposed to be replanted with native wildflowers and also some woody vegetation at the recent request of the Conservation Commission. And so plans are being developed and shared with them to add more woody vegetation. Right now, we're adding a series of herbaceous perennials with a low mowing regime so that it really is more of a meadow with like annual mowing. But with the idea that it'll be beneficial to wildlife, it will really curtail any further use that's currently going on. So nobody can park vehicles back there or do miscellaneous activities that are not pertinent to storage unit facilities.
I have a question.
Sure.
Where is Cotton's trees thing in comparison to your picture?
Yeah, our current tenant's going to be allowed to still operate on that parcel, given
Cotton's not there anymore.
Cotton's not there anymore.
The owner right there.
That portion of the site would be about here.
He's gone now?
To be clear, his wood processing operation is gone. He
Okay.
still has a bay in one of the buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, it just looked like one of the storage unit plans would be where he's currently was operating.
That's right.
Okay.
But he's no longer bringing logs in there and
Correct.
processing wood.
Correct.
Okay. That was a sore point.
I've heard.
Okay.
And that is That's essentially the gestalt of the site. As you are aware and have mentioned, this has already been presented to the Conservation Commission. They are, they understand that this is a complex site. There's multiple resource areas that are involved on the north end of the site, and we are very much aware of that and working to be in compliance of that. A large part of the effort here is to bring the site into compliance, since there at least was a special permit for the logging operation, it looks like, or the wood chip storage. But we are aware, not that it's totally relevant to the planning board, but aware that there weren't previous owners applying for notice of intents for previous activities. So we're obviously working to bring this all into compliance with the Conservation Commission also. They've asked for a third-party review, so we know that that's extended. And we've done further look into respond to those questions already. So that's all underway, and I'm personally think that that's a very positive response. But I won't dive into that. In terms of this facility, we find that it is harmonious with the existing use of the site. It's additional storage units to the facility. There's surrounding woody vegetation, so we don't see that it's going to be an noxious use compared to the existing use of the site. There's not any harmful chemicals or noise or other pollutants that are being brought in by this proposed operation. So we think that's going to be an improvement overall to the site, and one that's in harmony with the existing use. So
Another question?
Sure.
Does this affect the front building as you drive in on the right where the tattoo people are now?
No. No, it does not.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, any questions from us? We also have opportunity to ask questions after the public comment piece as well.
When I drive by the big Victoria, I see the barn behind it. Where that barn is going to be these 2 or 3 extra pads and storage containers. You doing anything for visibility from the road? Any vegetation in that plan or anything?
There's currently not.
Yeah, I understand that, these 2 parcels are zoned industrial and plopped in right there in this residential neighborhood. And so I do think that some sort of, and it honestly next to some historic homes too, the one in the front and even the ones straight to the east, west. Those are also, I know that the argument you made for the landscaping was that you don't think there needs to be a buffer, because I would argue that there should be at least a buffer from that house and to the west.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't object to that.
Yeah, that's just something I'm
I think
thinking
it's
about.
reasonable.
Just different view. What you're looking at used to be the barn that was there for more than 100 years.
Now
Now all
some
of a
metal
sudden,
buildings, right, yeah.
it just changes the character of the back.
Agreed.
Yeah, we can certainly add that.
With any other questions related to this, I understand that, you're working with Conservation Commission, and as I mentioned before we opened this public hearing, we probably, at least I won't feel comfortable voting on anything right now until we hear back from Conservation Commission. Yeah, Mike?
Do we know, is there gonna, what it is, or if there would be any impact on traffic?
Yeah, traffic study. That was,
I think we've got that
there,
information.
yeah, there's some of that in their application, Mike. It mentioned that an estimate of 1.5 daily weekday trips and I'm rounding up to 2 daily Saturday trips per 1,000 square feet of floor area. So that means, with all the math,
May I respond?
yeah.
Oh,
go
great.
for it.
At the very back end of
Yes,
that
the end.
traffic summary, the total is looking at like projected peak hour trips. And so the existing facility is looking around like 5.6 vehicle trips. This is per hour, so the peak hour of the day, morning and evening. For the weekday, the proposed site is adding another 7, so the total peak hour would be like 12.8, so 13 sites. So that's roughly 1 car per 5 minutes. On a Saturday, the peak hour is 19.9, so 20 cars per hour at those peak hours. So 1 car every 3 minutes. So I guess I would argue, but I appreciate the adversity of that. I would argue that it is not significant because it is really only for 1 hour a day that there might be this amount of traffic possible. This is not a guarantee there will be this amount, and it's not to say this will happen all day, every day at this rate by any stretch.
And thinking about that, before you purchased this, there were other tenants in this parcel. This is related, is this for all the potential tenants in the current parcel or just this business?
For just this business, looking at the existing storage unit and then looking at the new storage units and what would be the potential amount of traffic involved with that.
To be clear, you mentioned Lashko, Jeremy Cotton's business. He's removed his operation from the parcel, and also Rescue Towing has moved.
So you have to factor that into your traffic too, minus all that
Minus
in
all
your
of that.
peak study.
And those were all trucks going in and
Right.
out. These are going to be cars. And I own 2 other facilities like this, and I never see traffic like that. I'd be happy if I did.
And is the other tenant, is the tattoo person still in there as well? Just
Yeah,
thinking-
he's
okay.
still in there.
Okay, so it's
He
basically,
sees one person at one
Right,
time at a
right.
time.
right, so it's the tattoos and the, and the storage units.
it.
Those are the things that'll be operating out of
And
there.
we didn't, and just for the record, we didn't look at the tattoo facility and analyze what kind of traffic they
Yeah.
have. And how
He
that
recently
works.
came to us, so we're aware of some of that.
Correction, though, we do have another space that we want to rent out, the commercial space in our office, but we haven't rented that office yet.
Any further questions, other questions? We have the board, we have an opportunity to ask them after. So otherwise we can open the public comment piece. So right now it would be any comments of any supporters of the project need to come down and speak in front of the mic, and you're directing your comments to the board and not to the applicant, just so we're having a nice conversation. And time now for any supporters of the project to come forward and speak. All right, with that, comments from any opponents of the project? Please.
Stephanie, may I speak? Stephanie, it's Mickey Sanderson.
Yeah,
Mickey? Stephanie?
yes.
Yes. If I may speak first and wearing 3 different hats,
Yep.
I'd like to do an overarching kind of capture of what I know about the project and certainly what I know about the site. Sorry I wasn't able to make it there, but happy to be here remotely, so thank you for your time. I first want to start off as co-chair of the Historical Commission, Hatfield Historical Commission, that the development of 12 Elm Street into storage units, number one, would cripple the potential reuse, conversion, renovation of 12 Elm Street, as we lovingly know as the Hatfield Club. Storage units behind, the word cripple is pretty appropriate. Number 2, now I'm kind of putting on my realtor hat, in addition to the Hatfield Historical Commission chairperson hat, that the greater development of the parcel behind 12 Elm Street would greatly and negatively impact the Elm Street Historical District that's currently in place. Actually, the sign is right in front of this property. And the quiet enjoyment of residential persons, including historical homes, as you said, Stephanie. That would be Mark's house to the east. It would also be the Oliver Partridge house across the street, one of our older homes. In short, I believe we all know this was spot zoning initially, as we kind of characterize it. It's kind of a broad, loose term. Having a commercial entity in amongst this area, certainly past uses have greatly disturbed the riverbank areas at the Mill River. I agree that that's a great thing to remove wood chips and log piles and things of that sort. But quite honestly, having been there just 2 days ago, the entire parcel is really barren and decimated right to that riverbank. So what I think is appropriate is to diminish the use on these parcels, not augment the use on these parcels. 2 more points, and then I'll leave it to the other folks who have waited very patiently to chime in on this. It is highly likely, based on my research and visits to that barn, affectionately known as the Hatfield Barn, a lot of history in the town, it is truly over 100 years old. As a matter of fact, I think the Berkshire design person actually said it is over 100 years old, which would predate 1913. I would say a demolition delay is imminent on the barn for that discovery to be made and for the townspeople to speak on that item. And lastly, as co-chair of the Comprehensive Planning Committee, the last hat I wear, we're actually looking at diminishing traffic on secondary roads in Hatfield. And any use that would increase traffic on Elm, Maple, Main, Prospect, etc., is, as identified by this committee and the residents, is not in the best interest of Hatfield. And there I conclude my 4 points, and thank you very much for listening to that.
Thank you, Mickey.
Thank you, Mickey.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to this project? Please make your way to this. Yeah, please come down to the chair so we can, microphone can pick you up.
Sorry. My name is Sydney Thorne. I'm at 26 Elm Street. And this is just a neutral question, not pro or con. I couldn't hear about the easement. So I'm wondering about, someone mentioned the driveway.
Driveway
left
to the
of
big
18.
house will be used, have an easement to get to the storage units behind.
So anybody renting storage units there are going to be coming down that driveway?
It would be in an emergency, I believe, right? It would.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Just so we're not just so we're not having the
Yeah,
back and forth,
please.
we'll address, if you would like to
So the
speak.
purpose of the easement is that if there is 2 purposes. One, if someone is on the west end of the property, they can exit the property there. There'll be no sign on Elm Street. And the second use is for emergency vehicles to get in.
okay, so
It doesn't prohibit someone from driving in there, but
the main traffic for the storage would go in on 12.
that's right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from opponents?
Hi, I'm Dave Donis. I live at 14 Elm, right? Everything's right behind me. Like, I like that idea if you do allow it, that barrier wall, because when we look out our back window, that's all we see. And then I'm hearing stories that they're talking of putting a bigger sign out front, a lit up sign. Are you going to allow a larger sign? And the traffic on Elm Street is so bad now between potato trucks and everybody's the main drag into town. And we're going to add all these cars coming in on weekends and everything. Like, I go to mow the lawn, you got to look both ways just on that driveway that you don't get run over. There are a lot of cars going in and out of there all day long. I see it every day. So I hope we don't allow this to happen. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And even if we don't address the comments right away, we're going to be able to address those comments after everyone speaks. So someone else, yeah, please make your way down to the front.
I'm sorry. I'm Carol Benson. I own 18 Elm and have, well, I don't right now, but this is devastating, the thoughts of that barn coming down. It doesn't need to. It's a beautiful historic building. Yes, it needs some work. But I would hate to see them take it down just to try to, have more storage. I mean, it just breaks my heart what's going on. It really does. and it's going to affect the whole neighborhood. And there was talk of a big driveway coming down there. I didn't hear you mention that. There was what Alejandro showed me, a big driveway coming down between 18 Elm Street and 24 Elm Street. I didn't hear you mention that. Is that?
Easement that we just talked
That was
about, yeah.
mentioned, that's here. It's basically following the existing driveway that's there. It's no wider really than that existing driveway
Okay,
follows
that's
along
not
and
what I had
comes
been
to the
told
back of the site.
previously.
Okay.
But
so
I
that-
just.
Yeah, just to,
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you.
Right, no, this just devastates me. It's just too much. It takes away from the historic area of the town. And that house and that barn can't come down. There's no need for that to come down. They can easily from the back. I mean, we had a business there that was, that filled up the whole back of the barn when we had our asbestos removal, and then the fabrication shop, and we had a fleet of vehicles in there, big vehicles, and they all went out Elm Street, but there wasn't as much traffic then, was there, as what's happening right now, because he lived right there, and there's no need to have the whole thing, sure, for an emergency or something like that, but I'm totally opposed to that, and we have to do what we can to save that barn. It's a beautiful building. There are some pictures of when this house was built, which is back 1868, and there weren't that much longer that barn was there. The Graves family had built that, people across the street, and they had horses in there and they did tobacco in that barn. And I think that they've got to fight for that. And I'm glad that Mickey was able to call in and say what she did. There's no need for that to come down. It's beautiful. It's historic. And for all of us who remember it as the Hatfield Club and everything, I mean, why destroy something when you can make it better? Yes, you can have some business out back, but don't destroy, the feeling from the town and, what's always been there.
I have a question. Who owns the barn now?
He does.
And who maintains it now? Who has maintained it in the past?
I have.
Okay.
He's not maintained anything on the property. He hasn't mowed the lawns or done anything like that since he's owned it.
May I ask you, Carol, is your concern primarily with the front section of the barn or with both sections? It's
No,
kind
the
of two
back, the
separate.
back section should come down. It's old, and the people that were the last tenants there left it. They put salt all over that beautiful floor, as we all remember it from, back in the day, that beautiful, concrete floor that had such a sheen to it because it was there for the dances and things like that. The last tenants that were there totally ruined it. They stored salt on it and then they spread the salt all over. It's total, that part's totally ruined, and that should come down. I don't feel that is safe any longer, and that I have no problem with that coming down. But anything that's going to affect the front and looking at it from as you go by in the street, my gosh, that would just be awful. I love it, the core. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol.
Any other comments from the public? Yeah, please make your way down.
Hello, my name is Susan Kugler, and my family owned the Hatfield Club and Barn until 1974. And I did a little bit of research, and I understand the barn is protected as a historical building. I can provide documents, not right now, but if anybody wants to see them. And if it's protected as a historical building, that means it can't be demolished.
The historical commission can rule,
Mhm.
delay the demolition for a year while they review it.
Okay.
And that sounds like it's probably gonna happen. But we don't.
That's not, yeah.
That's not in our.
It's,
in our
yeah,
purview.
it's not,
This can happen when.
it doesn't belong
Review
there.
that.
You know, It just doesn't belong there. It's a historic, Hatfield itself is historical. And that's the Elm Street Historical District, and it doesn't need to be filled with storage units.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Peter Pollard. I'm at 26 Elm Street, so 2 houses down. And I would concur with everything that, I didn't catch the woman's name, Mindy,
Mickey Sanderson.
Nikki.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what the ability of you to prevent this is as the planning board. If I would offer my advice, I would say anything you can do to limit the expansion of this would be a service to the town, a service to the community, and a service to the neighborhood. You know, more storage units in that space is going to be a blight. Taking the barn down would be a travesty. It would change the whole nature of the neighborhood. It's a wonderful neighborhood that's got a real feel of historic Hatfield. And to impose this kind of development on that neighborhood, in my mind, would be a travesty and would really change the nature. I do have some concern about this road. If it were only used as an emergency exit, that's fine. But if you've got a right of way, is there a way to limit, to assure that that's the only way it's used, that it doesn't become, since they have a right of way, that they suddenly decide they could, you know, use it for other things as well. The information about new signage was, I mean, if that's the case, that would again change the nature of the neighborhood. The signage that's there is fairly low key, but still is an intrusion on some level. And any increase of that would, I think, be unfortunate. So I don't know whether, you know, you have a right to reject the whole project as the planning board. You know, given the zoning, I don't know what the conditions are, but if you do, I would ask that you reject the whole project. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep.
My name is Scott Fanoff. I'm here because my mom's here, and we have concerns with the drainage that's already on that stuff that exists. She owns a property that's next to the storage unit now, which has already been built up 4-5 feet, tapered like this, and floods the field every time we get heavy rain. My brother used to garden out there and sell stuff. He had to quit doing it because they rotted all his pumpkins and stuff that he was doing. They were out there with a canoe one time trying to pick the stuff to save it. I probably wouldn't have a problem. My mother probably wouldn't have a problem if they took care of the drainage that's on that side. I mean, it's terrible how it floods that field.
What's the address?
4 Elm Street.
4.
I got some pictures of what it's built up like if you wanted to see it. May I approach you?
Yeah.
This is the property here.
Mhm.
This is where it's built up. It's about 4 feet higher than hers.
Mhm.
The driveway and everything's all pitched this way, their driveway, so everything runs into the field.
Mhm.
Again, this is looking from their land down to my parents' is the green stuff.
Mhm.
And she's been fighting this for a while now, and it's just been getting worse as they keep doing it.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm concerned about, that one that he does. If they put drainage in there and we're able to collect all that water, I don't think there'd be an issue. All that water just keeps running into the field and flooding it.
Yeah, and it's, it's our understanding that previous things that have happened on that parcel have been done not correctly, and so this would be an opportunity to ensure, yeah.
For us to limit this project with those concerns in mind. I mean, I think that we're listening to everybody's concerns, and certain concerns seem to be structural to the property as opposed to historical. And that seems to be one of your problems, is the structural. And if that were addressed, would that solve your problem?
It would solve my mother's problem.
Yep. Okay.
Any other comments from opponents to this?
Yeah,
Any
I'd
further
like to
comments?
add one more thing.
Yep.
For Elm Street, I'm really happy to see a member of the Faniff family there. Longtime participants in the history of Hatfield and on committees, his parents. I would lastly say that more development on that parcel is going to greatly impact property value. So I would like that to be on direct abutters, but also secondary and tertiary abutters. It's always a negative thing, never a positive thing. So, looking forward, I also think the Faniffs have opportunities to have lots available behind their house, next to their house, based on the 4 acres they have at 4 Elm Street. So we should pay attention to that. There are opportunities in the future, and not diminishing them because of overdevelopment, commercial development in a place it probably doesn't belong.
Any last comments before we wrap up, before we close?
What would be their hours of operation? Because there's no security around there or anything, so anybody can drive in there at any hour of the day.
Yep. All right, we can address that question too. All right. Anybody else like to speak? Another comment?
Just say that there's an awful lot of wildlife that people don't really realize.
I think Mass DEP is, they're very concerned about that, and Conservation Commission is
Very rare wildlife, and we treasure it.
All right, if no one else that hasn't spoken already would like to speak to this project, I will move along to the next portion of the public hearing procedures, which is now the board in conversation with the applicant. So with that, I think there were some great comments and questions raised by the community.
Let's address the drainage first, because that seems to be a major situation in the land, in the property itself.
And also, it might not be able to be addressed yet until we hear more from Conservation Commission and Mass DEP about that. But
I can speak briefly about that. Yes, first, I guess I'll just say directly, I appreciate the concern of this northern corner of the site. And yes, the existing drainage obviously is headed in that direction, kind of a northeast direction. And there's a portion of the site that's obviously draining in that area. And it seems that there is obviously there's problems. I'm not familiar, but you've raised it to our attention, and I think it's been mentioned to you before, Alejandro. So we're going to take a look at that corner of the site. The remainder of the development of the site is graded in such a way so that it basically directs all the water from essentially this portion. So aside from this one corner, the remainder of the site is being directed to the southwest. So it's all into a infiltration basin. From our understanding of what the soils are, there is certainly the possibility of good drainage and some infiltration, but the stormwater basin is designed to be able to capture very large storm events, and then is set to slow down if there was any breach of this, which is really, it would only be breached in a 100-year storm. So that in all other smaller storm events, there's not going to be water that's going to just rush through and then go down the embankment and go over the embankment into the river. All of the existing vegetation is almost removed all the way up to the edge of that steep embankment, and then there's trees on the top of that embankment. And in some areas, there's pieces of concrete and rubble and debris. And so Alejandro is planning on removing that material, and then all of this is getting replanted with native vegetation to promote that habitat. And so we've submitted to the Conservation Commission, we've submitted to the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program for their review through the MISA regulations. And so they provided some comments and requested some additional study. So we're addressing all of that and just trying to do our best to really stay with, within compliance for this. So that's essentially for the drainage.
So what the Wetlands and Conservation have asked you for, nothing addresses the northeasterly runoff?
No, nothing,
Okay.
nothing specific has asked for that to be addressed. But we can certainly take
And
a
we
look
got
at that.
neighbors that are asking that it be
Exactly, yeah.
addressed and looked at.
We appreciate that, and we can figure out how to address that and try to reduce that water to capture more of that on site.
We appreciate some effort.
Sure. Yeah.
This is the first I've heard of drainage problems on Phantom's land. But yeah, that's all right.
May I ask where that drainage would go?
Where the drainage in that north corner would go?
Yes.
I mean, currently it just runs to the north and sheets off the property. So there's, to a certain degree, we can try to address that to capture that, pre-treat that into some form of infiltration basin to slow that down, to try to reduce the amount of sheet flow that occurs. But if a hill slope is going in a large direction, we can't exactly change the direction of that, but we could try to design it in such a way to capture and reduce that flow. I don't know the exact.
I might have asked the wrong question.
Okay, go ahead.
The drainage site, does it go to public water sewerways, or does it go somewhat into the Mill River?
For the existing site?
What your plan is?
Oh, the plan is not going into sewer or drain lines, and it's only at the most severe of weather, that is beyond a 100-year storm, may it overflow the infiltration basin and go towards the Mill River. But right now, it's all directed to be basically processed into the infiltration basin. So-
Okay, and part of your report and study is actually saying that it could actually spill over in a worst case scenario, but could it go into the Mill River?
Yeah.
Did I
there's
hear
a-
that correctly?
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. After a 100-year storm, it's very difficult to create a size basin that's going to capture that volume of water.
And that's something that, Mass DEP's, that's all part of the thing that your Conservation Commission is looking more into, correct?
Correct. State stormwater standards don't mandate that the storm event be designed. I'm a landscape architect, not a civil engineer, so I just, for the record on that, I am. But it's my understanding that the state stormwater standards don't ask for a site to be developed to the 100-year storm. I believe they asked to be developed, I think, only to the 25-year storm, but we oversized it in order as more of a fail-safe.
And as Mickey will know too, as part of the comprehensive plan committee that's looking at climate resiliency, those 100-year storms are, if anything, those numbers are increasing.
Absolutely. They're not every 100 years, obviously. Right. But the idea was to design it as a fail-safe. We understand the Mill River in this area is a cold water fishery, and there are greater standards within the stormwater standards for that. And so we obviously want to do our part in this so that the system is designed so that it's not going to become a problem at all.
And I don't really want to labor anymore on what's happening in that back part with the Mill River until we get more information. I think there's no understanding that we agree that it's a very sensitive area and we want to make sure it's done correctly and understand that there's issues with current layout and issues with this potential issues with this proposal based on Conservation Commission's comments. So can we move away from
I think we need to move away and wait for an expert opinion
on that
on
particular
that,
thing?
you know, period.
Other things that were brought up to me, we have in our bylaws, we have signage. There's signage requirements and things in our bylaws, so they would be limited to the size of the sign in the bylaws, which we can get more information on too before another meeting, because like as we noticed, we'll probably continue this based on information from Conservation Commission. Related to that, I didn't hear anything about lighting. I know people are saying something about a lighted sign, but I don't know if I
Something about security lighting in the application.
and security. Yes, there's something about security lighting, but I'm curious about extra lighting in general. Then that's what's already there. And related to security as well, I guess we could talk about those two things.
You want to respond to those two?
Yeah, do you have a specific question? I can respond?
Yeah, is there any, so the lighting that's already there, is there anything additional that you plan to be putting up?
Yes, the new buildings will have lighting on the outside, but they are, I forget what the lighting engineer called it, but it's very limited pools facing down and it's designed not to attract insects and birds or whatever.
Sconce, I think it's called sconce lighting.
They are sconces, yep, but
Dark sky.
that's what it is, yeah.
And where would those be in like how many on one of those buildings?
I think it's maybe 3 on a 200-foot building,
Mhm.
something like that. It's enough so that someone goes there after dark, they feel safe and they can see where they're going.
Okay.
It doesn't light like every unit's door or anything like that, you know, but it shows you where the drive aisle is and where the building is.
And so nothing, no additional street light or anything lighted lights
No.
going in there on the current parcel that already has the storage units or anything
Not
like
unless
that?
you require it of us.
Nope.
No, and these lights should not be visible from off the property.
How about talking about sense of security, the comments of, anyone can go in there at any time. Is that true 24/7?
Always has been true, still is true. There's no gate on the property. It's not practically possible to put a gate on the property because we have a tattoo shop and we've had other businesses in there that need people to get in. So yeah, true. There for security, there's going to be cameras and they're going to be visible and people will see it.
So there is the potential for 24-hour activity.
Sure, we can't control it.
And it's that's what's
the way it
currently
is now.
allowed on the property. Related to I do have, I understand why you'd need an easement and stuff too. I have some, potential concerns if are you going to pave that easement? Is there plans?
We don't intend to,
Oh, so it just would stay like a dirt driveway like it currently looks like, or
pretty much.
pack down gravel or something like that?
We've retained the right to do something there, but we have no plans to.
But the easement is there in case.
The easement's there in case. That's right.
Okay. Because limiting in and out of potentially traffic seems like it would be, if we could limit it to the current entrance and exit, probably that would make
That's
more
a
sense.
Technicality, I don't know how you discourage
Signage.
in and out through that once people realize, oh, there's a back way out here. I don't know how to address
I don't either.
concern, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned this before, we took public comment, but vegetative screening and buffering a little bit more would be something we would want to see as well. And then
Very open to that.
yeah, because I agree that, I have feelings that this shouldn't, this is spot zoned, and we have a lot of these parcels all through town, plopped, industrial zones plopped in residential areas, commercial zone plopped in residential areas, and I think it's more of an issue with our zoning map that creates these kinds of, challenging situations for us and the residential neighborhood that these parcels are zoned in, and it creates some challenges. And but it's zoned industrial, and so it's kind of challenging for us to address all the concerns that the public has. With that said, related to the barn and the understanding of the historic piece of the barn, this we kind of addressed it in some of the comment too, but it's not necessarily our purview to decide whether it's historic or not. If there's documentation and if there's, the historical, you said the historical commission
yeah,
is working on on doing their thing with the barn. That if someone wants to go forward and really try to push that, that's great
That's where
for
that
them.
fight, that's where that fight will be fought.
And I
Right.
never heard back. I also looked it up on the National Register. I also talked to the building commissioner. I talked to people around town. I asked John Benson to help me find someone to maybe disassemble it instead of demo it. I talked to experts around the country, actually, who specialize in disassembling old barns. Mostly what they said is it's actually not that old, most of it. There's steel beams in it. And it wasn't worth disassembling, unfortunately. I tried to put the word around town to see if anyone would be interested in just taking it. If they would disassemble it and keep it in town, maybe there'd be a use for the town itself, and just got no traction.
You know, it would be cool if we could just keep the facade of it. You know what I mean, from a vista standpoint. But
Stephanie,
yeah,
I took photographs and they're currently being analyzed. There are hand-hewn chestnut beams in that barn.
Okay.
So I agree that it has been worked on, augmented, things added. However, more discovery I think is in the best interest of the town, is what I'm going to say on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
And so
I also think that I don't think Rick Parker was contacted, and he's the preeminent barn restoration taker downer, put her back upper in all New England.
I'd love his
So-
number.
yeah, if there's you heard the call. If anybody has anyone interested in supporting and helping
Please.
with that, Gerard can help you get in contact with the applicant, or you can reach out to the applicant himself. Other things that are on the minds of my committee members or our assistant planner.
We have a lot to digest. I think that the historical nature of the barn isn't really in our purview, but
Mhm.
I mean, obviously the concerns of the neighborhood are. That's where I am right now.
And we have gone over barns before in the planning board. And one of the things that has come up is who is responsible for maintaining that barn. And the town is not responsible for maintaining barns. We went through this with the project across the street from here, the little condo project over there, where they wanted the town to fix up that barn. And we said, your condo association owns the property, it owns the barn, you're responsible yourself. So anything that's gone on with that barn so far has been under the purview of the present owner at the time. And that's what it exists right now. Whether it's a historical site or not, I think that needs to be determined by the professionals. Again, we are not professionals in that. So I think that we need to dig and find out what the story is, how much renovation has been done to that barn, and is it still considered a historical structure? There's just more information that we need before we can make this kind of determination. And it seems to be on multiple levels between the Conservation Commission and the DEP and the Historical Society. So right now I see limbo. I see limbo with a lot of questions and places that we need to go to get answers, but I don't see that we're ready to make any type of determination on this property right now.
You understand?
Oh, yeah.
You got that historical gate to get through.
Right, and that's
then you
not,
got the DEP to
and
please,
that's
and then
not,
we can help you.
and I didn't
Understood.
say that to suppress you.
Of course not.
I did not say that to suppress you. We need all the right answers and then to make the right decision.
Yeah, so if we,
And the other thing is that sometimes emotions need to not be part of critical decisions. There are legal things and there are emotional things. So, and I understand the emotional attachment that people have to that barn. I get it. I wasn't here then, but I get it. But that doesn't mean that legally there's a means to stop him from doing something with that barn.
Any other comments? Mike, do you have any questions for that before we close or continue the hearing? I'd imagine that's what we're doing.
No, everything seems pretty clear to me. We need a lot more information before we can make a decision on this.
All right, and I'm just going to give the opportunity for Janelle. Is there anything you'd like to comment on this? Otherwise, we can.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see what the Conscom has to say later on, and then possibly also get something with lighting.
Like a schematic,
plan.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. So with that,
The hand up.
it's not really time to entertain comments, but is there a question or a follow-up?
Question.
Yeah.
Did the combination of the 12 and 18, the back of 18, change the zoning of that area?
No, both of those parcels are zoned industrial.
They are.
Mhm.
Change the borders of
Okay.
the two properties.
Yep. With that, so it seems like we would like a lighting a schematic to see some more vegetative screening or a buffer.
Do what you can to address the drainage going to the northeast.
Okay.
Or at least look into.
Yep. And yeah, we'll wait and hear about the barn and the wetland area back there. And we'll see if that changes or your schematic at all as well. Is there anything else we would want to see in this? And I would say, I imagine, again, we're going to vote to continue this hearing. We have to continue it till our next, we'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting, but if you don't have an update, we would you could wait to present all the stuff at one time if you'd like. You can come back and do the screening and the pieces that you do know.
Signage was spoken about.
And signage too, yeah, like it's within it's in our zoning bylaws, but letting the public know what the signage look like too. But yeah, you can either come back at the next meeting and present the things you do have and do it as a trickle streams in, or you can kind of wait until you get everything back and want to come and present to us. But we will have to vote to continue the hearing probably each meeting. So until that happens, I hope it doesn't take that long for you, but from what I've heard, it could take a little bit.
Sounds like we at least need to wait for the Conservation Commission. So that's fine. We can address that as things move forward and decide, make more of a game time decision, decide whether we want to present these piecemeal or present the entire package. We'll discuss that and see what seems to work best, and then we can just simply reach out and ask if we need to continue. That'd be great.
All right.
Motion to continue. Did you?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mike?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you everyone
Hearing
for your
is
concerns too.
Yeah. Hearing is continued until next month, where we may or may not have something to report or continue it on to the next meeting. It's the first Wednesday of
7th of
June
June.
7th. And I will say we typically do not have a July meeting because it usually follows the week of July 4th. So that's something else to keep in mind as well for y'all. All right. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you coming out. Our last formal discussion item started on the schedule for 7 o'clock. We apologize to those that are on there. Oh, coming in now. Great. Thank you. We thought 7 o'clock was the right time, but sorry.
These are the guys that fixed my car.
Oh, nice. All right, so with this, it's we got some. Oh, if anyone was here for this, if everyone's leaving, please have conversation out in the hallway so we can continue on with our meeting. Thank you. And if anyone's new coming in, please sign in. We need it for the record. All right, so this is related to a site plan review at 23 West Street for a proposed auto body. Because it's a site plan review, abutters got a notice but it's not, public hearing or anything like that. But I will read what was on the butters notice. The planning board will conduct a site plan review on Wednesday, May 3rd at 7 p.m. or 7:39 p.m. in Town Hall. Applicant Matthew, you pronounce the last name?
English.
Ingelis. Matthew Ingelis of Ingelis Auto Body is seeking site plan review for the use of property at 23 West Street as an auto body repair shop. Complete site plan review application can be inspected at room 106 in Town Hall. Great. So if you'd like to talk about what you would like to do with the parcel or not do, what you're requesting here today.
Yeah, so short answer, Bacon Wilson, accompanied by my colleague Tom Reedy, and then the Ingelis gang behind me. So basically what we're asking to do is use the proposed parcel for use as an auto body shop. 23 West Street is zoned in the business zoning district, and there's sufficient facilities for use as a body shop as is, and therefore Mr. Angelis does not plan on doing any external changes to the site or anything like that. So we'll be keeping all the buildings intact in the way they are. The reasoning for coming here or for coming to 23 West Street is the Angeleses have an auto body shop in Northampton that they're running, and they've outgrown the space, and it led them to 23 West Street.
Sorry, do you mind signing in? Everyone who's here has to sign in. Thanks.
And so I think that's a good place. That's a good place to start for us. Yeah.
Okay. A quick question. Have you gone to Conservation Commission at all about anything? No. Because this is in the aquifer. There's an aquifer like within the aquifer zone. I don't know if that's a zone. Because I think there are concerns around like hazardous waste and disposal of those things with auto body shop.
Yeah, and we can speak to those concerns.
What has been used in the facility prior to now?
We can let.
Is that Cotton's place?
No. Talking about Roger Corza's old house.
Oh, okay.
It was Labby Auto Body a long time.
Right, okay.
And I don't know what they were doing recently.
Usually when vehicles come to their shop, they come clean and clear of all fluids. And if they don't come clear and clean, then they have a third-party hazardous materials contractor that comes and he takes the fluids out of the vehicle, and then they will store them on concrete flooring inside the facility.
What about painting? Is there auto body painting that goes on and fumes and things like that? And how is that?
Yeah, so they're planning on installing a paint booth, and that paint booth will be the paint booth you can speak to.
Yeah, no, it'll be all up to code and.
Yeah, that's fire department regs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Building inspector.
Properly
fire department,
ventilated.
Yeah, there'll be alarms, fire suppression, all that.
And okay.
Lifts? No lifts?
Possibly one. Nothing right now.
Pissed in the ground or on a slab?
It'll be on the surface.
On slab. So these are electric, no oil
Yeah.
water separators, or they do have oil water separators? Only hydro.
Oh, electric,
Okay.
yeah.
And it seems like, normally with a site plan review that comes with like a nice schematic of what the layout and everything is going to be, and what you've supplied us does not have that. Is there a reason why that's the case?
Because they're not making any exterior changes to the site, we didn't feel the need to.
The site plan.
So you're requesting a waiver?
Yeah, we're requesting a waiver for the site plan.
No drainage, no swales, no
Nothing like
storm.
that. Nope.
I think there, Janelle, you had some questions, a list of questions that you had, and I'm curious.
Yeah, so it's nice to know that there's going to be hazardous materials contractors coming to take those fluids off site. That was one of my concerns. Another one was the painting. So if I'd love to see, just so we can have something on file, what those plans are for installing the paint booth, just because I'm unfamiliar with that. I was able to find materials from I think it's RK Miles Inc., who owns the property now, when they got their determination from trying to load this. Their special permit with site plan approval in 2010. It was October in 2010. And as of then, it was found to be up to code with our stormwater management bylaws. But I would just like to get some input from the conscom just to make sure that they're aware of that and that they're okay with it, basically.
Especially given the aquifer recharger that it's located in.
So I mean, essentially, we're kind of in a we have to be in a holding pattern, waiting on Conservation Commission on this because they're in the aquifer plain. Am I right?
Yeah,
in
and even
thinking
if
that?
they're not doing anything, I would want their determination of being like, hey, it's fine with us for them to just go
I
to
mean,
you.
my initial thoughts are if we can get away without a site plan, then I'm all for saving these guys some
Not
money.
changing the site, right?
However,
We are in the aquifer, so we have that concern.
Yep.
So I mean, what I continue it and wait on Conservation Commission, or do they have to go to the Conservation?
Has it been brought to the Conservation
has it
Commission?
Yeah, no, so we haven't gone to the, Tom Reedy, attorney with Bacon Wilson out of Amherst. So we haven't gone to the Conservation Commission. Because we're not making any exterior changes to the site, there was no need to go
You haven't needed to, right?
to the Conservation Commission. And I think if, we're happy to provide the detailed specifications prior to installation of that painting booth. We're on somewhat of a tight timeline. I mean, quite frankly, we haven't closed on the property yet, but it's supposed to happen in 12 days. And so if we, I know, oops. If we can get an approval, because it is site plan review, and I know we're asking for a waiver, the use is allowed in that zoning district. We can, in good faith, have a conversation with the Conservation Commission if you'd like. Nothing's changing on the site. So again, I don't know what jurisdiction they actually would have in enforcing, anything out there, but
but the use is changing enough. Where
but the use is allowed. I mean, so
accept
Concom
Right.
deals with resource areas. Their jurisdiction is limited to, protection of
Aquifers.
preventing alteration of resource areas, right? So, I mean, if they have some jurisdiction over an aquifer, then we'll go in front of them necessarily if we're changing things, right? So I don't even know if it's because typically there's delineation of resource areas, right? So that's one of the functions that a Conservation Commission has. And you go through a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, or you get a request for determination of applicability, or if you're going to do work, you do a notice of intent. And we're not doing any of those things, and there's not that resource area. So that's why, when we did our zoning and permitting analysis, and we say, well, it's really just the use is allowed in the zoning district with site plan review, which is a pretty limited review as it is, especially when I hear from Matt that they're not changing anything on the site external. Like if he was coming in and taking down buildings or changing the parking lot layout or anything like that, I'd say, okay, hold on. Now we've got to comply with potentially stormwater standards for for a redevelopment, et cetera, et cetera. But because we're not touching anything, that's why, when we look at it, we say, well, it's site plan review. And then that review is kind of somewhat limited. And when we come in and say, we're just using the site as existing, we don't know that there's much more. But like I said, as I've offered, I'm happy to have a conversation with conservation, and I'm happy to provide to you prior to receipt of a building permit for that paint booth or any use of the paint booth, the specs. And we can send it to Gerard so he can have it on file. And if you need us to send it to fire department, we're obviously happy to do that as well.
Yeah, I think just because we don't deal with the aquifer stuff and Conservation Commission does, I would appreciate a written sign off that they think that that's fine based on what you're saying. Just like you're coming to us requesting a waiver for all these same reasons.
Yeah, I as I said, I'm inclined to try to get them this waiver. I just don't want to act in a way that we can't against on land that conservation has to kind of check off on. I'm not sure it's great to me. So,
I know.
If I may, if Concom does have, just to maybe allay that fear, if Concom does have jurisdiction then we're going to have to go in front of them and get whatever approval we need from them. In your jurisdiction is, well, let's talk about the use. And the use is allowed site plan, and we're not making any changes. So just to, and I can appreciate how you ideally, right, in an ideal world, you get the Concom sign off first, and then you'd say, okay, we have no problem. And I guess the way I'm coming from it is to say, you know, to silo it a little bit and to say your approval is your approval. If we need something from them, we're going to have to get something from them, or else your building commissioner is not going to issue what he has to issue for the Angelises to actually operate the business at the site.
And we can condition our approval. of
Totally.
our
Yeah,
vote as well.
I like
I was,
that.
I was just going to say that we could condition our approval on a satisfactory report from the Conservation Commission, whether they needed to do something or whether they needed to do nothing. But I mean, we can condition our approval on their opinion
On the
and
conservation.
not necessarily make this a
Yeah.
three-month process.
Well, I mean, let's help these guys out if we can.
I do have a couple questions though before we hop to that
Hit it,
piece.
please.
Parking and things like, you know, the number, I mean, that lot is pretty, you know, they have the fence and everything around that. So, I mean, you have sufficient enough parking and all of that. And I'm curious about, that's a kind of traffic also too. I know that also, the requesting the waiver, also you're requesting all the traffic impact state study, just only because that intersection is kind of, you know.
It's interesting.
Where are we
Yeah,
parking?
it's 5 and 10. It's the corner of Linseed.
Oh, okay.
Right across from GNS.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so I'm just curious if, you know, signage and in and out of that parcel, have you given thought to that? And have you?
I mean, as far as operationally, I think I would imagine most folks are coming off of Route 5
You can also enter on Linseed too, correct?
if you can. Okay. Well, there you go.
And there will be signage, you know, directing that and making.
Well,
sure-
that would make it safer for sure.
Yeah.
That's my preference. And there's a gate there now. We're probably gonna put a sign, a little sign on that gate,
Mhm.
entrance with an arrow,
Mhm.
and keep the gate closed during the day most of the time.
That would assuage the traffic.
Yep.
What's Full Tilt think about you guys muscling in?
They love it.
Janelle, do you have any further comments based on what we're talking about here?
One more question that I had is I just wanted to confirm that the vehicles that you all service, those are just like I forget what class it is, but it's not any commercial vehicles or construction vehicles, correct? It's just
That's
Okay.
correct. Passenger vehicles. I
I
think.
just wanted to know that. And then will your hours of operation stay the same as your business in Northampton?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And can you state for the record what those are?
So 8 a.m. to
8 to
5.
5.
5 days
Mon-
a week?
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. Sorry.
Thank you.
Mike, any comments?
No,
I have a
no, I have
comment.
nothing.
Thank you.
What do you
I have
got,
a
Jimmy?
comment. I've done business recently with this family, and I can only speak volumes in support of them. They do a wonderful job. They run a clean operation. It's a family business. And to me, we should be supporting family businesses in this time, any and all ways we possibly can. And I think this is just a really good one. They've treated me extremely well, and I think they treat the public extremely well. The reason I got to them is Marty Leary told me to go there.
Mhm.
And he's got a decent amount of experience dealing with other people. So, I mean, he didn't send me someplace that it was going to be bad.
Mhm.
And I just got to say, I got the best treatment I've had at a car place ever.
And they
Okay.
they didn't know who he was either. Just
Okay.
okay.
They did. I came off the street cold. There is no question. There's no favoritism involved in here. That's an honest opinion from me. I don't patronize. That's an honest opinion of the experience I had with these people.
Great. Yeah, I agree. This is, you know, I'm excited to see that you want to come into Hatfield.
And I know their place is too small for them now.
Any comments or further questions on this? Or are we ready to?
I would make a motion if everyone's ready.
Janelle, you satisfied with those responses?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I make a motion that we waive the site plan for the Angelus clan with the contingency that it is, that we get the blessing of the Conservation Commission, being that it's in the aquifer.
I'll second that.
Well, we're in discussion. We're waiving it, but approving it also. We're waiving the site.
Yeah.
Approving the waiving of the
Approving-
site plan upon Concom's thumbs up.
You're waiving the site plan and approving the site plan review.
I make a motion that we waive the site plan and approve the site plan contingent upon conservation's okay. Is that all right?
Can,
I'll second
Wait, hold
that.
on. Yeah, just a second with Jimmy. Discussion, Janelle.
I was just gonna ask, can we just add, I would just like to see the plan for the paint booth and where it's gonna be located on
Site.
the
It's
site.
inside, inside, right?
It's inside.
Yeah, it's inside.
It'll be fully inside the building.
It's like a sea can.
Okay, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you-
It's not exterior. There's no
They're not
exterior
changing
paint,
the
right? It's gonna be inside.
Yeah, and that would be under code enforcement, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Kyle's.
Yeah.
Do you still want that?
Okay,
You think that
perfect.
would still, we would still need that for our record pieces, Janelle?
I don't think so. I thought, I did not know where.
Okay.
That's
Where
fire
it was gonna
department
be
building.
building,
You'll
so,
be- you'll
okay.
do that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So that was the discussion. There's our, but we don't have to go and change that. All right.
Okay. So
Any
then-
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Great.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you guys, really
Yep.
appreciate it.
We'll probably take a look at the conservation bylaws, regulations. I may reach out to.
If you want to reach out.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to the chair or whatever.
Specifically, like before, a meeting, you can do that.
I might-
Get something in writing.
We might say, here's our opinion, what do you think, Concom, like not us, but it might be like a wetlands, Steve Riverty or somebody like, I don't know if you have to deal with him, but
Yeah,
there's
like-
wetland science, just to have somebody's eyes laid on it,
Yeah.
and it will have that conversation.
Planning wanted to hear what you said.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
not been formal, another 90-day thing,
Something like that, yeah, yeah, we can have that informal.
what they're talking about.
I'll have
Cool.
to do it, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Good luck,
Guys.
And hopefully,
And
welcome to
patient.
Hatfield.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I'll tell Zach he's in trouble.
All right. All right, that's all done with our formal stuff. Now we can just put our feet up and do the informal stuff. All right. I just wanted to talk briefly about the town meeting amendment articles. So,
Let's get our heads wrapped around that.
so we initially submitted 4 zoning bylaw articles for the town meeting warrant. I'm going in the order that they came to us. So the first one was changing the two Church Ave parcels from rural residential to business,
We recommend it.
and we recommended it.
Right.
However, the draft of the town meeting warrant on the website does not say we recommend it right now.
That's what I thought I
So
saw.
I
Yeah, I
reached,
thought I
it
saw
just
that.
says, it makes it look like we remain neutral.
It's neutral.
So I
Seems-
reached out to Gerard and Marlene and let them know when I looked at that yesterday.
Okay.
Waiting to hear back. Hopefully they're not all printed yet. The other 2 articles we've remained neutral on, and so there's another one we recommended, and that was the people who want to do the pickleball thing,
That's
right?
been withdrawn.
So, yeah, so I'm explaining to the public that we had the folks reach out to us about that parcel that they wanted to put the pickleball facility on. They're the ones who wanted us to allow recreation facilities in a light industrial zone. That would be the warrant article. They did further research into that parcel because, they didn't want to put the cart before the horse. And when they looked into it, they realized that there's going to be too much wetlands for them to do what they anticipate doing on that parcel. So with that, they do not need to see that warrant article passed.
Will that be withdrawn?
And
Or it's still going
so-
to be on?
Yeah, so I reached out to Marlene, and she reached out to town council, and basically I think it's withdrawn, but just to cross the T's and dot the I's for us to vote to rescind it officially is something that we should do tonight, just so we have it on the record.
You want to do it right now?
I think we should. I make a motion that we rescind what was the number on the
Pickleball.
pickleball? What was the number on
We're
the
testing
address?
Gerard right now.
What was it?
We need to look that up
121 West?
before we vote on that. It wasn't even it isn't even a parcel though. to rescind the warrant meeting, or warrant article that would add recreation.
Services 4.22 to.
Right.
Yeah.
Light industrial.
Yep.
And you want me to repeat that?
David Lee makes a motion to rescind that, what Gerard just said. We have it on tape.
Janelle's laughing. That's good.
Make a motion to rescind what Gerard just said. We're to rescind.
I'll second it.
Then? All right, all in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
I,
Town meeting's going to be enough. We don't need to have something on the ballot that we have to explain that this one
Right.
here doesn't matter. You know?
right.
Yeah,
And
and
then
I,
everybody's look at the planning board. What are you bringing up unnecessary stuff for?
yeah,
This meeting's
and for
long
the
enough.
record, I actually pointed them to a parcel that's for sale down the road on West Street, and so they're gonna be looking at that.
The one by
That's
the,
already
You're a
zoned
pickleball.
appropriately.
Okay.
the one by the garage?
Yes.
Huh?
We'll see if, we'll see if cost,
Yeah.
cost works out and all that stuff.
I heard that was very expensive. I
But
heard
you,
that.
but it's buildable versus
Right,
this other
right,
lot,
right,
which
right,
they were
that's
probably
true.
looking at
That's true.
Okay.
clearly more affordable, but has more wetlands. All right, and then the other two,
Two neutrals.
the two that we're neutral on is changing the zoning of the 104 and 108 West Street from a residential to light industrial for a gentleman that wants to propose a coffee shop and a
Kennel.
dog kennel, but that doesn't matter because that's not what we're voting on, even though he sent a nice mailer in the mail to some folks in town.
Right.
That it's just about rezoning those two parcels to light industrial to match kind of the neighborhood that it's in.
We were
We remained neutral
we
on
were
that.
neutral on it just because he hadn't come to us with enough, right?
No, it's not that he didn't come with us with enough. We don't need the plans. There's no he just didn't articulate.
He didn't have a strong enough argument in
No.
support of
understand.
changing the law.
I remember
He
that.
was
zoning
just stuck on the
bylaws.
business, and we're like, you're not there yet. You need
Yeah,
to
you
talk
need
to
to
us
talk
about
to us why
zoning.
Hatfield should change the zoning.
Yeah, my personal opinion on the project has nothing to do with what he presented to
Yeah.
us.
Right.
I get it. I remember now why.
And
why that ruling was.
Lee tried to lead him to water, but he didn't drink it.
Didn't want to be drinking.
What was the third? other
And then the
neutral.
last one is neutral is 3 parcels on North Hatfield Road to be zoned.
So master.
It's Omasta's parcels where the frontage is zoned rural residential, but the back part of the parcel is light industrial, and they want to be rezoned so it's all light industrial. And the reason why I remain neutral is I think your wording is perfect. It's just like a gray area of I understand that if they're stuck with these oddly zoned parcels, but they were intended to remain that way for the neighborhood wanted to remain at the time rural residential. So we're leaving it up to the public really to make
Yeah,
that
there
determination.
was some neighborhood concern there. So
Leave it to and all 3 of those articles that we now have on the town warrant need 2/3 majority support because those are all.
zoning.
Yep, zoning changes need
2/3?
2/3. Yeah, there was some changes in the bylaws or from the state level where some only need majority support, but not related to these articles. They have to
All
do with
these would need
housing and
2/3.
things like that. Yeah. Mhm.
That's a tough sell.
Yeah, Mike, any comment?
No, I'm good.
All right. So I just wanted to remind everyone that you can vote on these at town meeting, which is on Tuesday, May 9th at Smith Academy at 6 or 7? 6:30. Oh, split the difference. 6:30. All right. The last piece of discussion updates, we get to talk to our wonderful assistant town planner, Janelle Franklin. Hello.
Hi, Janelle.
No, this is her second meeting with us. And so I wanted to just have a conversation on the record for the public to hear, for everyone else on the board to hear. Just kind of, as Janelle gets her feet wet, some of the projects that maybe she's percolating on, working on over the next year to hopefully bring to town meeting next year. If we could, and I also want to bring up to the board, if there are things in bylaws and things that you think that we should be working on or thinking about addressing, this is something we can talk about ongoing. But this is hopefully this is what our assistant town planner is for, to help us be more proactive in these things instead of reactive. And so, yeah, Janelle, I think there's at least a couple things that you'll be working on probably this year, if you want to take the floor.
Yeah, so I think something that we've talked about so far, and what I'm hoping is gonna be a summer project for me is working on making some updates to our open space bylaw that we have, and taking a look at that a little bit more. And then also potentially looking at some of the spot zoning that we have in town, and addressing those parcels that maybe don't fit very well into the zoning map that we have right now. So those are two of the big projects that I'm looking at. And yeah, I'm very open to hearing other people's suggestions on what they would like me to take a look at as well.
Yeah, and you're the one who suggested to the Hatfield design guidelines too, right? Those.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, the Hatfield design guidelines. So Gerard and I have tried searching some past town meeting minutes, which we just cannot find where it existed in public comment. So we've come to the conclusion we don't think that the guidelines ever made it to a final vote. So they do exist though. So part of the big work is done, but maybe looking at those, seeing if we want to make any changes to it and getting those prepared to submit to next town meeting for 2024. And
Are those something that needs to go to town meeting? That's something I had a question on too.
Will it
I
be
thought
part of
they
a master
did, because
plan?
I know
Doc?
they, was that someone?
I was wondering if it was something that's going to be part of a master plan or something bigger.
So those are already referenced in our bylaws multiple times, our Hatfield design guidelines, and they only got to a draft form and they never got passed.
Sounds
And
classic.
so in order for us to be able to have teeth in some of these design, like for example, not that we would say the hotel would need to revamp itself based on these guidelines, but we might have, stronger teeth to, to have these guidelines passed instead of, yeah. So I think the draft already exists. It just might need to be slightly tweaked and updated from the draft that's probably now 8 years old.
Yeah, and maybe they don't have to go to, I have to look into this more. Maybe they don't have to go into town meeting. I know they do have to be sent to the Attorney General.
So then maybe it's town meeting, because I think everything that passes at town meeting goes to the AG's office. So yeah, we'll look into that.
Okay, yeah. So yes, design guidelines as well.
And yeah, the open space development bylaw, that's something that we were in the middle of redoing, and then it got shot down, not shot down by town meeting, but shot down by our town council right before town meeting, because there was he thought some legal issues with the way it was worded. And so because of that, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission we worked with them to create this open space development, to update the open space development bylaw. And they kind of felt bad that that happened to us. So then they worked and got a grant to update their own model bylaw for the open space development bylaw.
Make it easier for us to adopt kind of a
Yeah,
standard.
and they used it with us in mind. And so like Hatfield, it was Bob Wagner and then me at the time, because it was kind of when he was leaving chair and I was becoming chair, worked with them and other municipalities to work on updating this model bylaw. And they finally finished it this December. And so we gave the giant stack of paper to Janelle, Marlene and I did. And we're like, here you go,
You're
Janelle.
welcome.
If there's a way we can do it to update ours. And that'll involve public comment sessions and, our input and carrying, I think, ensuring that we carry the public along with the process of that, I think will be important and something that we will update and do. We currently have an open space development bylaw, but this would just be updating it. Is everyone familiar with what that is?
No, but we briefly touched upon it one of my first meetings.
Yeah, in short, it's like where you preserve, if you want to put in a traditional cul-de-sac on like a farm field, for example, right? This open space development bylaw is an alternative where you would preserve around 50%. This is the numbers up in the air, but 50% of the land would then you could develop the same number of lots in more condensed, smaller lots, but there's still the same number. And then the other half, 50% of the developable land would then be preserved in perpetuity. And with that, it's generally less cost for the developer because you don't have to make the road as long. You don't have to deal with water and or sewer into as large of a parcel, but they still get the same number of lots that
It's
they
the
have.
only carrot, save some money.
That's
Mhm.
what they did up there on the North Hatfield Straits thing, right?
No, they
That
didn't
wasn't-
do
that was a
that.
different
No.
thing?
We've had this bylaw on the books and it's only been used once up on West Hatfield somewhere.
That thing on North Hatfield Road, they used the frontage from Straits Road
Mhm.
to
So they
justify
flagged
3
it out.
houses.
Yeah.
Right. So this is it's in a way that it's a way to develop land, but also preserve it, right? And it's a way to create smaller lots where we need smaller lots
Yeah,
to
how do
have
we
more
encourage it?
affordable
That's what I'm
housing.
wondering. What's more carrot?
Yeah,
or
so that's
stick?
something that we would talk about, I think, with Janelle when working on it, is like, how do you make that the incentive versus a cul-de-sac that has 200-foot frontage lot, like
Tax
half a
break
million
on all
dollar
the
house.
preserved land or something, you know?
Right.
If you want to look at a really good, if you want to look at a really good example of that, if you're not familiar, Emerson Way in Northampton is probably the last and most recent development in the valley with open space concept.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Emerson, actually.
Me too.
I did a lot of work over there.
So it's a quarter acre lots with the open space around. So
Yeah,
you go.
and in a lot
that's
of
great.
yeah, and a lot of the open space can be used as a giant park or a field, or it can be maintained by a private entity, a public entity. So there's like a lot of ways to do it. But like the Hatfield way, like you can see, like it would be maintained by a farmer, it would still be farmed potentially, or woodlands.
Didn't they do
Emerson
that
was
on
mostly woodlands that they preserved.
Didn't they?
That's like the West Hatfield parcel that they did
Isn't
this
that what
on.
happened on Parada's land? That they were able to build those condos in the back by leaving all the.
No, that was just design choice,
Oh,
actually.
well,
So yeah, there's ways that you can do more carrots things, right? And there's also like, oh, you get an extra lot if you make it an affordable house, right? Like you get an extra lot if you do XYZ. There's ways to make it
How do we
more
encourage this stuff?
incentive.
That's good.
But it's harder, it's easier to envision a subdivision, you 200 feet frontage, meet the lot size requirements. Like someone can draw that on a piece of paper. It's much harder to like draw it out. You need like more of an architect and to really visualize this type of development. But I'm hopeful that it's a way that, will help preserve land because we're not doing a really great job at that, and develop smaller lots, which we aren't obviously doing a good job at that because our lot sizes are huge in Hatfield and I mean huge in that they create $500,000 houses. So that, and then, yeah, the spot zoning thing, we can talk about it, but like, I feel like that might be better and more palatably passed with a full robust map change as opposed to trying to change the stuff that's spot zoned, because I'm sure the people who have the spot zone land like that because
But
it's
the
developable
storage
potential.
spot, right? It's, they're going to fight.
Right.
It can't be industrial in there. It's a tree. They're grinding up trees in there. It's already zoned. It's acceptable to be stored.
I know, and should it be
right. That was one of the
we can
feelings I
fight it.
have about that 12 to 18. I mean, it's an industrial site.
Yeah, your
Right.
neighbors are upset, but I mean, it's just.
And so what it's actually come out in the previous master plan, I believe, and then there was a 2012 amendment to the master plan, and both of these things talked about they shouldn't be spot zoned, those things. They should be allowed to still continue the businesses that are there, but be pre-existing non-conforming uses. So they should be the zoning that's around there. So like, for example, 12 and 18 Elm Street, not saying that we're doing this or anything like that, but if rural residential around there or town business center is close to there too, you'd say that that's the zone it should be, but keep them pre-existing non-conforming uses so that like they're
Essentially grandfathering.
they're
in, let's say.
grandfathering that ends. And if the business sells and changes hands, that same type of business could stay there, but you couldn't like change it to anything that's allowed in the industrial zone, for example.
Well, my opinion is that what they're looking to put in there is way better than what we just endured.
Well, we're not. This
we
isn't the
can't
time to
talk
talk
about
about.
I know. I'm just saying that the whole thing with Jeremy Cotton was horrible.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, so with that, those are things that Janelle is thinking about, and thinking about, when is the right time to bring that to the town is is something to think about too. And it's all been recommended before in past plans and things. So, and I think there are other things that we could cherry pick from previous plan. Like that's what master plans do. They give you like things that you should be changing and updating and using. And some of the stuff we've done, but some of it we haven't. I think that there's an opportunity to pick some of the ones that it's kind of low hanging. Some of them are low hanging fruit and not super controversial. I wouldn't think. You never know this town.
You know, just thinking about it, kind of veering off here a little bit. I think that another thing that is of concern that we've kind of been running into is our table of uses. Usage is a little bit antiquated. We're having a hard time. We're finding a hard time putting square pegs in round holes here.
Especially because there's new square pegs that that were never there before.
Doggy daycare, right?
Yeah.
Who would have ever
Doggy
imagined?
daycare, for example, or like the tattoo shop. Like where
yeah.
do you fit the tattoo shop
Right,
in there?
right.
You know, and you know, despite whatever with cotton, you know, there's no contingency for a sawmill in town. I mean, there's a lot of woodland in town to not have a contingency at least for a sawmill. You know? These are the things that.
Yeah, and like we'll need a big project to think about that in.
Yeah.
Along with like a zoning map we're looking at. Yeah. Janelle.
Potentially thinking of a home business bylaw as well. I don't know if that's something that you all have talked about before, but I know quite a few towns are looking into that more, especially as more people change to not just working from home, but possibly starting businesses from home too. So that could be something.
Do you all know what a home-based business bylaw is?
Mm.
It's more than just like I'm registering my business in town. Like it's like, for example, if you had a little home mechanic shop at your house or you wanted to, you would be allowed to do that within certain parameters. It would be like you couldn't build a garage that's bigger than 50% of your square footage of your house, for example. You couldn't have more than one employee. The town of Sunderland has a home-based business bylaw. And I'm just thinking about, I know that there are gray area businesses doing these types of things in town. And so it would be a way to legitimize them and have them operate in some sunlight and like be able to promote their business that they have. And also prevent them, you know, if the ones that are operating now like do happen to get in trouble or reported on or whatever, like, you know, something like this could help some of these people. And it wouldn't necessarily benefit people who are just like working on a computer at their house from home, but like maybe have more of a trade that they have, and like help legitimize them and not be operating really in the shadows.
I think legitimacy is the word. Yeah.
And it's something that I'm interested in just based on like some of the stuff that has come up, at least while I've been on the board the last.
Another one is the auxiliary apartment.
We have accessory dwelling units on the books. Yeah.
The one thing it did come up in the comp plan committee.
Because Janelle attended the comprehensive plan committee meeting, the last one we had. Yep.
That our current accessory dwelling units only include extensions or internal units. So it did come up that people were thinking about detached units, and that's not something that we include now. But I don't know what I think when it was added in 2019, the public opinion was not in favor of detached units. So
yeah, going through that process, I was there part of that tail end of that when I came on the board. And yeah, there was intentionality as to not including detached units in order to get it to pass, and from the public comment that we had in developing that. So I don't know.
Don't we also have a limit on comparative size to the main structure?
Yeah, it's like 900 or 1,000 square feet. I don't remember, something 900 square feet maybe, I think, and it has to be attached. So that's when a lot of other towns maybe with accessory dwelling units allow for detached. But I don't know if that's something we would want to bring forth or not. I think we passed it in 2019. I guess it would be a conversation with Kyle. Has anyone like reached out to him and asked if there's an interest? But if there's not an interest, I feel like
which I have not done that yet, but I want to see building permits and see if there's been a significant use of that, or if it's kind of just been added on and not really utilized that much. So
Yeah, I think that would be the first, what I'd want to look into first before pursuing that. And then also, your time is limited. You have 20 hours a month, so you have to
yeah.
and prioritize what you'd be interested in. So yeah, this is just an open conversation of like, these are some of the projects that Janelle could be bringing forward to us. And like, if you have an idea for something, or if the public has an idea for something, please reach out to Janelle or myself. We are excited to have this assistant town planner because, like I said, we can be more proactive. And yeah. And with that,
And
yeah, go ahead.
table of uses, that's heard. So I can look into that as well.
Thank you.
Yes, and since you mentioned comprehensive planning committee, and I'm the planning board representative on that committee, I do just want to take a moment and say that we're doing public engagement sessions. I feel like this board might be particularly interested in the comprehensive plan committee engagement sessions where we're getting input from the public on like what they want to see in the future of Hatfield. And one of those is happening May 31st. It's going to be virtual, I believe at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And then we're going to be doing an in-person one on June 10th at Black Birch Vineyard from 8:30 to noon, breakfast and lunch provided, where we are trying to solicit and get as much community input as possible. And then we'll also launch a survey to collect.
That's the way to get public input. You just host it at a winery. That's
Exactly.
going to work.
That Mickey, they love the winery idea.
That
I know
is
we were like, not
wise.
another thing at
That is
the
wise.
school. Let's switch it up. So.
If you want to get people talking.
Yeah, so especially at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday. Oh, anyway.
It's actually 8:30 to 1, and it is, yeah. So it's going to be a great time. Please spread the word. It's going to be fun.
What's the date?
May 31st is the virtual one in the evening, and then June 10th is the Saturday morning one. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that because the next time we meet, it'll be June 7th. So, all right. Anything else related to Janelle that you want to bring up, or anything want to say to Janelle before we move on to the next piece?
Welcome aboard.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Great. Minutes approval. Moving on. I took a look. And Gerard, the only thing that I noticed was that where it says on the second page, it says 6,000 square feet, but the comma makes it look like it's supposed to be 60,000 square feet. Do you know?
It should be 60,000.
Okay.
Right? I think so. Right? I'll look into my notes. I think it's 60,000. Thank you.
Yeah, just based on that. Other than that, it looked good to me. Anyone else?
No, ma'am.
I'm making a motion
I motion to accept the minutes.
with that.
Correction.
Mhm.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Minutes approved from March 1st, 2023. We'll get the next April.
I know, I
We'll get
realize,
April and
I
May
realized
minutes in
after,
June.
and that one is gonna be very short, so.
Yep.
Very short.
I apologize, I slipped my mind.
So our next meeting is, like we mentioned, Wednesday, June 7th. And then I'd also, again, like to note to the public that we do not have a meeting in July. So,
Is there stuff that needs to be signed before we leave?
and we have stuff that we need to sign before we leave, correct? So with that, could we get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned at 8:24. Thanks, Mike. Good to see you.
Thanks, Mike.
Good to hear you.